Okay, in this video I'm going to walk you through the major muscles of the arm. Okay. What I'm going to be doing is basically starting up here at the shoulder, working my way down distally past the elbow, down toward the wrist, and into the muscles of the hand, mainly the muscles that we call the thenar muscles that work our thumbs. So start, like I said, up here at the shoulder. If I kind of hold it like so, and I know I'm kind of zoomed in here, right away at the top of our shoulder, and this is on the outside, so the lateral side of our shoulder is this kind of triangular shaped muscle, which is the deltoid. Okay, deltoid, you can see, is going to pop off on this model, so we can kind of see a little bit better of the structures involved with the shoulder. What we're looking at this point is kind of the posterior look at our shoulder. If we think back to when we talked about bones, you can see what number 3 here is pointing to is the scapular spine. So we can look at some muscles that actually make up our rotator cuff, which includes the supraspinatus, which is above the spine. Remember, supra means superior. Actually fits in the supraspinous fossa of our scapula. Directly below it, this good-sized muscle here is the infraspinatus muscle. So you had supraspinatus above, infraspinatus below. And then directly below that, what number 8 is pointing to is the third of the rotator cuff muscles, which is the teres minor. The teres major is this muscle down here, what number 9 is pointing to. It's actually not a rotator cuff muscle, but you have the teres minor here, the teres major there. If I flip it around, I'm looking actually from the front side here, or the anterior side of the arm and shoulder. You can see this good-sized muscle here that we call the subscapularis. Sub, remember, think like a submarine, is deep. So this is actually deep to the scapula. So you can kind of see up here at the top and around the sides here is the kind of medial border of the scapula. And you can see covering that anterior side of the scapula is the subscapularis muscle. It would basically go, if you worked superficial to deep, you'd have those muscles that we just talked about on the back side, then the scapula, then the subscapularis, and then directly on the back side, or on the inside of that, excuse me, would be the ribs, making up our thoracic cage on the back side. Okay. If I kind of twist it here, and I'm kind of looking just on the lateral side, there you can see the thumb, so I've got it illustrating the kind of the biceps side of our arm, which would be on the anterior view. You can see why we call it the biceps muscle. There are the two heads, or origins. You can see the biceps really, really well. That's the major or prime mover of elbow flexion. Now, if I kind of start to twist it here, there's a long kind of strap-like muscle that runs down our humerus. That is the brachialis muscle. We'll talk about the brachioradialis in just a second, but brachialis is another one of those elbow flexors. And then if I twist it all the way to the posterior side, kind of on the back side of our arm, we'll find the triceps muscle, triceps brachii, that is. You can see that has two different heads. Both of these are the triceps brachii muscle. Now, as I start to move down toward the forearm, you'll see quite a few muscles. Forearm on both the anterior side and the posterior side is going to be pretty complicated. So I'm going to kind of try to dumb it down as best I can for you guys. Right away, you can see this number 19. Number 19 is that brachioradialis muscle that I was just talking about. You know, the word brachioradialis refers to the fact that it's part of the brachial region, but then it runs down the forearm alongside the radius. Remember, the radius is the thumb side, and that's kind of the side that we're working on here. Okay, so there is the brachioradialis. Now, if I stay on kind of the palm side here, I'm going to be looking at quite a few of the flexor muscles. Now, that would be the flexors of the wrist that I want you to know. Okay. On the front side here, anterior side, we can see numbers 23 and 24. 23 and 24 are some of the major flexors. The flexor carpi radialis muscle is this one here. You can tell why it's called the radialis. It runs down the radial side of our forearm, down the radius. Number 24 here is the palmaris longus. It's a long muscle that runs down into our palms. And then along the very pinky side of our forearm, on the very medial side, would be the flexor carpi ulnaris. So those are the three major wrist flexors. When I'm right here, I might as well kind of talk about it. Number 22 is an important muscle. It is called the pronator teres. Pronator teres is what allows our forearm to pronate. Remember, pronate would be to go like this and move it like that, where our palms are face down now. Okay. So those are some of the major muscles. If you look at the point at the wrist here, you can kind of see this kind of white thickened band. That is called the flexor retinaculum. It's a very important, basically, structure that kind of holds those many tendons that are coming down the anterior side of our forearm, kind of in place. Okay, we'll have an extensor retinaculum right on the back side. Okay, it looks like basically a band-aid on the back side of the forearm. So we're looking at the back of the forearm in this view. Okay. So we'll go ahead and talk about those backside forearm muscles. What we have pictured here, we're going to be looking at extensors. So we're going to be looking at some extensor carpi, which are muscles that are going to extend the wrist. Looking through number 20 here, which is just on the a little bit more lateral side of that brachioradialis. Number 20 here is the extensor carpi radialis longus. Radialis longus refers to the fact that it's going down the radius, and it's much longer than the other muscles, because there's another extensor carpi radialis, but it's the brevis, and that's what this muscle right here is pointing to. Extensor carpi radialis brevis, and this time brevis means short. Okay. The extensor carpi ulnaris is number 32. It's all the way on the flip side over here. Okay, it's running down the pinky side, and it's extensor, so that's why it gets its name as extensor carpi ulnaris. And then let's see, make sure I don't miss any. 20. Nope, already covered that one. Just making sure I don't miss anything here for you guys. Okay, I think that should be all of them. So, at least from the anterior and posterior superficial views. Now, if I kind of remove some muscles here, that might help to see some of these deeper muscles. Let's see, we're looking here, trying to take off. All right, what we can see in this view is the supinator muscle. After I've taken off all those superficial muscles, we can now kind of see this more deep muscle, the supinator. Supinator is a very important muscle. It does exactly what it tells you. It helps to put our forearm like this. So we talked about the pronator teres, now we're looking at the supinator. So if you're kind of looking at the model here, you can kind of see it from both the posterior view like this, and you can just kind of barely see it kind of from with the thumb straight up like so. Once again, down here at the wrist, we said that was that extensor retinaculum. holding those major tendons that run through the wrist kind of in place. The last thing we'll talk about are the major muscles that help us to do many various things with our thumb. We have 4 major thenar muscles, as we like to call them. And the key with all these muscles is that they have the word pollicis in their name. So you've got abductors, you've got adductors, you've got extensors, and then opponents. So looking at those muscles, let's just kind of start here at the top with number 40. That's called the opponens pollicis. Okay. The opponens pollicis muscle is its name. If you move this direction, number 41 is the abductor pollicis brevis, so that helps to move our thumb away from the middle part, so we pull the thumb that direction. It's a brevis muscle, meaning that it's short. The flexor pollicis brevis is this one, to help flex the thumb, so pull it like so. And then the final muscle is number 43. You can see that one right there. If I zoom in a little bit better for you, I know the 43 is upside down, but you can still see it pretty well. That's the adductor pollicis brevis, so that's going to help pull our thumb back towards the midline of our body. So I think that should pretty much wrap up the muscles of the arm. Thanks.